hell is this?
How many copies of this are out there? Could be dozens.
Pirated copies are sprouting up all over the web.
You don't seem to understand what a big deal this is.
I'm on that tape just the same as you.
But this is worse for me.
How is this worse for you?
Few scenes from the trailer for a new series that debuts today on Disney+. And if it looks familiar, hello Baywatch, you can see who it's about. Pamela Anderson, Tommy Lee, what a hot couple they were, tabloid fodder in the 1990s, and now the subject of an 8-part series that Eli is here to talk about, exceptionally on a Wednesday, because we're going to be deep into the opening ceremony on Friday. Eli, good morning.
Morning.
This is a series based on a sex tape. Am I getting that right?
Oh, very much so. I mean, it's the sex tape. It's how that sex tape went public. It's the people involved and much more. So this is based on a Rolling Stone article from 2014. So it's about the tape. It's about that intimate act that millions saw. It's a love story. It's about one very angry electrician and the internet, and all of those forces colliding in 1995. First, Heather, let's talk about casting. Pamela Anderson, of course, we know her, CJ from Baywatch, the modern-day bombshell, Tommy Lee, the drummer of Motley Crue. Those are the actors playing them, and you see they don't look much like them. So you got Sebastian Stan, you probably know him as the Winter Soldier from the Marvel movies, and that's Lily James. Maybe you saw her in the Cinderella films or in Baby Driver. And now, let me show you a clip so you can appreciate the, I'd say, total transformation. Let's take a look.
Think at all about Mr. Lee before you met him?
I knew he was the drummer for Motley Crue.
Did you find him attractive?
I liked his smile. I still do.
We're so good together, Pamela.
So there you go. Sebastian doesn't have a single tattoo, and Lily James doesn't really look much like Pamela Anderson at all, but that transformation is remarkable. Full credit to the makeup and hairstylist. Pamela has the smoky eyes, all the rest. Lily James really captures this kind of grunge era Marilyn Monroe chemistry that Anderson had, the voice, the charisma, and frankly, the sweetness. I mean, she wasn't always out clubbing. She loved to just stay home and watch a rom-com. Sebastian Stan as Tommy is a bad boy, but around Pam, he's a bit of a puppy dog, flashing his sweet smile and doleful eyes. But there's a third critical figure to the story. You may have seen him there, Seth Rogen in his mullet, playing the man responsible for bringing the tape to the world, Rand Gauthier, an electrician who Tommy Lee didn't play for some work he was doing in his house, and who he then decided to break into Tommy's sprawling LA mansion, steal a safe as karmic payback, wasn't expecting to find a very personal tape inside the safe, and the rest is history.
How is this worse for you?
Okay. What made the people, I mean, I just was noticing in those trailers from the makers of I, Tonya, which was a movie I loved about Tonya Harding, the figure skater. So you've been speaking to those filmmakers. What makes them think we need 8 parts on the Pamela Tommy Lee romance?
So yeah, you're right. I, Tonya, Craig Gillespie is a fantastic director behind that. I love that film, and it's interesting that he's gone from that to this, because he's kind of made a career of telling real life stories, often centered around strong women in difficult positions. And here, I mean, that's again what attracted him, is kind of correcting the record and telling us the true story of what happened to this tape, the fact that they were burglarized, that they didn't sell it, and showing us how the media really inflamed the situation. And Craig, who I spoke to, wanted to show us the real Pamela Anderson, not the caricature that maybe we know from pop culture. Take a listen to him.
It was important, to be as successful and iconic as she is. You don't fall into that. It's like, it takes a lot of strong work ethic and tenacity and resilience. And particularly in that climate that we're really trying to portray back then, it's like there's a lot of having to navigate a lot of chauvinistic situations.
One of his favorite scenes and mine is in episode 3, where an executive at a movie studio asks Pamela Anderson about her goals, about her idols, and she cites Jane Fonda and talks about how Fonda started as a sex symbol, think of Barbarella, but then she became a businesswoman, she became an activist, and we see that this Pamela Anderson is acutely aware of how we see her, but she has a plan. But of course, in the background, there's this tape that is about to emerge.
So what do you think of how the series treats her, and I guess more broadly the series itself, Eli?
So broadly speaking, it's 8 parts. It could have been 6. As convincing as the performances are, it takes a while for us to start to care. And that's because there's Seth. I mean, the first episode is mainly about this frustrated electrician who breaks into this house and how he got involved. Episode 2 is the whirlwind romance, Pam and Tommy meeting in the club, running to Cancun, getting married, and then coming home. And that's all what really happened. The third episode is where everything really starts to get traction. Pamela Anderson has this movie coming out. Barbed Wire is supposed to change everything. The world just sees her as that girl in the red bathing suit. So she's trying to level up. But behind the scenes, Rand and his friend who's in the adult movie business are about to figure out how to sell the tape online, going to something called the World Wide Web. And so the show shows us how the tape spreads, but it wasn't until Pam and Tommy tried to sue Penthouse from publishing images from the tape that the whole story went mainstream. And the courts really didn't think much of Anderson's privacy. And there's a very powerful moment, Heather, where Anderson says she doesn't feel like she has any rights because she spends her life in a bathing suit. In her words, she says, because sluts don't get to decide what happens to pictures of their body. This story is about a lot of things, but ultimately it's about consent. Right? Pam and Tommy made a private video. Someone stole that and shared it with the world. And that's the fatal flaw at the heart of this series, because from all accounts, the real Pamela Anderson never agreed to the filming of this. She wasn't consulted. She didn't participate. Robert Siegel, the showrunner, says they tried to reach her. Lily James said she tried reaching out. She wanted to do this with Pamela Anderson. According to Courtney Love, a friend of Anderson, this series is causing her complex trauma. And I asked the director, Gillespie, how do you make a series about exploitation without Anderson's participation or blessing? Take a look.
I absolutely respect whatever her journey is with that. It's like, for us, we're trying to correct the narrative and show, it's like, and show the misconceptions and the judgment that went down, and really understand how heinous the situation was. So hopefully it changes that perspective.
Now, to be clear, this is all perfectly legal and common in entertainment, but as Lily Jane says in the show, it's about the women who don't get to say what happens to pictures of their body. It happened to Anderson once, and now it's happening again without her agreement.
Eli, thanks very much. An early visit. Appreciate your take on that on Disney+.
My pleasure.